Good morning, Gordon Bears. We are so honored to have the McKeands here today. They are siblings, and of course, if you have been to the football stadium or walked past it, you're well aware of J.M. McKeand's name on that stadium. And I think it's so important for us to know who he was, and we still have great connections here. Emily McKeand Campbell lives here in town, and her brother, Jim McKeand, and he happens to be in town, so we're so appreciative that they were able to stop by. And we wanted to use this opportunity for you to get to know them and also to just hear from them about Shelbyville High School. So we'll start with the easy ones. What song takes you back to your high school years?
Well, I was a singer.
Yes.
And I sang a song called Blue Moon. And I really didn't think much about it. At one of our reunions, some of the ladies said, "We want to hear you sing Blue Moon one more time." So that takes me back.
That is a good memory.
Yeah.
Well, there were some dance songs, like The Stroll and At the Hop that were very popular, but probably the one song that when I hear it, it brings me back to Shelbyville High School is "The Lord Bless You and Keep You," because that was the song that ended every show choir performance that we ever did.
Styles cycle through, and so very curious. What's one that kind of stands out to you that might be seen as maybe a little different or odd for today's students?
Well, the girls wore big full skirts with what they called crinolines underneath them, and you needed about a 3-foot wide path to get down a hallway or through a door. And they were very hot in the summer and just not comfortable to wear and scratchy too.
Yeah, and the guys, if you smoked, even if you didn't smoke, we would wear white T-shirts with jeans, and the cigarette pack would be rolled up in the sleeve.
Yes.
One of the other things that I recalled is they had different color corduroy, either skirt or pants, for each class. And green was freshman, red was sophomore, white was junior, and cream color was senior. And if you were lucky enough to be near Dee Bonner's class, Dee Bonner was quite the artist and has been.
Yes.
And he could paint things on these cords. But you were a fool if you were a freshman and wore a green skirt or a pair of pants because they were a target.
Now, we'll talk a little bit about your father. People oftentimes mention him as a football coach, but obviously he was, for those who were here, knew he was a longtime, highly respected educator and administrator. Your dad was in the building, but I wanted to ask you too about who else might have been a favorite teacher, or someone who'd be that you really look back and enjoyed having in class.
Well, I'd have to say my dad was my favorite teacher. And the reason is he was a math educator. He was very good. I meet people and they think of him many times as a math teacher, not a football coach. And he could make it understandable for whether you were a math had that interest or didn't have that interest. And he played no favorites with Emily or I.
No.
He was hard on us.
Yeah, he was. He made half the class go to the board each day, one half then the other half. And on the very first day of class, he sent the first half to the board. I was in the third row, third seat. I was right in the middle. And he motioned to me to go to the board. And I thought, this is great. I don't have to do my homework tomorrow because I'm in this half of the class. Next day came, the other half of the class went up. I was just sitting there and he goes, I was in both halves of the class. And he did say he didn't want anybody to think we were a favorite.
Yeah. They knew better after that.
Oh my goodness,
You did.
yes. I had my homework.
Well, of course, I love reading the old Courier editions and then the newspaper and just see so many things about your father. But again, here we are in 2025, and I wanted to see what are some of the values that he instilled as a teacher, as a coach, as a father, that really stand out to you today.
You go, Jim.
Well, okay. I would say positive work ethic. And he did that by example. And even though I never had him as a football coach, I did have him as a track coach, but he would run with the football team, and he did everything by example. But it was a positive work ethic that has carried through for me.
Mm-hmm.
He was big on equality. He didn't treat any race or religion any differently than any other. He was fantastic. I do remember sometime late 30s, there was a black student by the name of Tommy Sadler who went to the state track contest. I think he was shot put, but I might be wrong. And so he took several boys with him, all happened to be white, and they went to the track thing, and by golly, he won. And so to celebrate, he was going to take them to dinner on the way home. Nobody would serve them. And he lived to his death. He was still upset about that. You know, he just could not understand that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was high school like? I know we talked a little bit about fashion, but there any other thoughts you had just on high school in general? What was it like when you were here?
Well, we both went to the old high school on 2nd Street my freshman year, and then they built this school, so I finished up out here. The wooden steps and the study hall and the echoes in there, just nothing like it. It was an old building. It's now an apartment complex, and I've delivered Meals on Wheels in there, and that is fun to go in and see the transoms and the wooden floors and think back. My dad's classroom was on the lower floor on the Tompkins Street side, and I used to have to sit there until I got a ride home. So, you know, I have a lot of fond memories.
Yeah.
I don't know, you have more memories, you were there 4 years.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that when you asked that question, I was thinking that we obviously didn't have cell phones in those days, but somehow we were able to communicate.
Well, you'd write a note and slip it in somebody's locker. That was our cell phone.
And I think it was a good thing, because if there was an issue, a relationship issue that was a negative issue perhaps, by the time you got around to talking about that, everybody cooled down, and it wasn't the big problem that it perhaps might be today occasionally, when you can instantly know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, our dad was Dean of Boys as well as a teacher and a coach. Dean of Boys was responsible for all the discipline. And so most girls had to ask their mom, can I go out with so-and-so this weekend, and get their answer. I was required to talk to my dad. And so I would say, Daddy, can I go out with so-and-so? Can I go to the drive-in with so-and-so this weekend? And there was one famous one, which I will not mention the name because people listening to it will know them. He put his glasses down and didn't say a word. And so he was my date screener.
Yes, yeah. Informed, that helps. Information.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I didn't tip you off about this, but I was curious, sitting here thinking about your mother had a critical role in Mayfest.
Yes.
And also a teacher. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share some kind of off-the-cuff thoughts about her and her role here. And
she started,
values.
She started May Festival in 1924, and it was started to highlight music and physical education in the schools because they did, they performed, but they had a court, and very much like it continued forever. And it didn't start out with the big ball gowns like it evolved, but it was meant to be celebrating physical education and all of that. But it lasted until COVID, 95 years. That's a long, long time. She was surprised. They honored her in 1995. They brought her on stage and gave her a little something, I think. But everybody thinks Martin Schultz started that with her. Martin Schultz didn't come to Shelbyville until about 1927. And a guy by the name of George Small was in charge of music. So George and Mother started that in 1924. Yeah, Mother met my father when he came here in 1927. And I believe it was an immediate attraction because he was single and attractive. And there were maybe 2 or 3 women that, were really interested in him. But he seemed to take a shine to Mother. And they were married in 1930, and the rule of the school system at that time was you couldn't have a husband and wife teaching in the same school. So Mother left and went home to be a housewife.
Wow. last thing I wanted to ask you about was, obviously, you've been a student before, and wanted to know what your thoughts or advice is for today's students.
Well, I would say find your passion and work hard at it. And I'll give you an example. Our son, oldest son, who was an air traffic controller, is now teaching air traffic controllers in Oklahoma City at the academy there. And they have right now are having a very high failure rate. And he thinks the main reason is they just aren't studying. In other words, they come there and think this thing is going to, through osmosis, it's going to get into the brain. Doesn't do it. So if you have a passion about something, work hard at it.
That's good.
Yeah. There's a couple of things. One is nobody can take your diploma away from you. So stay and finish education while you can, because it's basically free right now, and you get that first diploma and you may decide to go on. The other thing is, I know that I faced it and Jim faced it too. In high school, you meet all kinds of personalities of teachers, and when you get out in the workforce, you think you get out of high school, I can do what I want to. You're still going to have a boss, and they're going to have those same personality quirks. So you need to know how to deal with it now and figure that out, because it's going to be with you the rest of your life.
Yes, that's great advice. So true. Well, I am so appreciative that you would take time today. And I think students, one of the things is we see, we have a couple of names around our building, Breck, McKeand, and to really look at what were the values that they had and have passed down, and now that we've continued to pass down.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for taking time today.
You're
appreciate
welcome.
It.
We appreciate it too.
Thank you.